Good morning, everybody. I want to thank you all for joining this webinar. My name is Kif Scheuer. I'm the Climate Change Program Director at the Local Government Commission. I'm going to be providing all of you with an overview of the CivicSpark program. We'll talk about the application process and timeline, and I'll take your questions. So I want to start off by providing an overview of what is CivicSpark. CivicSpark is a Governor's Initiative AmeriCorps program. And to unpack that a little bit, AmeriCorps was created 20 years ago as the domestic alternative to the Peace Corps, a way for Americans to serve the needs of their country and grow professionally and ideally cultivate a lifelong appreciation of the value of community service. A Governor's Initiative AmeriCorps program means that it's a sort of special designation whereby the governor of a given state can identify a high priority need in their state and focus an AmeriCorps program on that for a period of time. There have been a number of Governor's Initiatives in California in the past, and CivicSpark is the latest iteration of that category. It came about because of some long conversations in the governor's office and with the Local Government Commission, where I work, about what are the needs around climate change and the needs for local governments. What we came to was the sense that local governments are out front on a lot of issues. They're leading on climate change in many ways, and they're critical to the solutions that we put forward. And in order for us to meet our goals, we're going to need a lot of local government engagement, but they have a lot of needs for capacity building support. There is extra work that needs to be done to go beyond the planning stages. There's research that needs to be done to help identify the issues. There's planning work and ground foundation laying work that needs to be done. And this takes time and effort. And having AmeriCorps members work on this issue across the state was seen as a way to do this. The program came about through a planning grant process in 2013, 2014, whereby the local government, in partnership with the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, did a series of listening sessions around the state, talked to an immense number of local governments about these needs, and identified this program model as the structure that seemed to be the most effective way to support local government and help to realize the state's goals around climate protection. 2014 and 15, we're in our inaugural year. We have members in 9 regions around the state. We have an annual allocation of 48 members. They're supported and backed up by 9 regional supervisors who work in partnership with 9 regional partners. And then we have staff like myself who are working at the statewide leadership level. We also have strong partners and relationships with folks in OPR who are helping to bridge that state to local divide. So the Local Government Commission, for those of you who are not familiar, is a nonprofit with over 34 years of experience. We have been championing local governments who want to be sustainability leaders since our inception. We were actually formed by Governor Brown in his first administration as a state commission. When that was disbanded, we reformed as a nonprofit and have been serving local governments ever since. We have a network of over 700 members around the state and in the country. And our board are made entirely of local elected officials. So we really try and serve local governments and on these sustainability issues, whether it's climate mitigation and adaptation or health, water, energy, transportation. We're the overall program manager for CivicSpark. We provide the infrastructure, we do the recruiting, hiring, and support of members. We do that, we link the local governments to the member support, coordinate training, and ensure overall programmatic goals and grant projects elements are intact. I believe my colleague, Holly Roberson, is on the line, and I'm hoping that I can unmute her, and she'll be able to tell us about the Governor's Office and the role of the Governor's Office in CivicSpark. Holly, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. Victory for the day already. Hi, everybody. So we have some local governments and planners on the line. Is that correct?
Local governments, planners, I think there's a number of interested parties from the community as well.
Great, fabulous. Well, we are really excited about this program. I'm Land Use Counsel at OPR, and I got to take this on as kind of a passion project because we are all about actually implementing at the local level. And as Kif said, that's where the action is. As you probably, hopefully all know, if we've done a good job, the governor is very passionate about climate change, and we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions as much as possible everywhere we can, as soon as possible. And each part of the state, each type of city or county, rural or urban, everyone has something to contribute and is a piece of the puzzle. So that's why OPR has partnered with the Local Government Commission to come up with something that's really focused on meeting local government needs and increasing capacity to work on these important issues. The program's been very successful so far in its first year. We're pretty excited for the second year. It was, Kif will get more into this, but it was competitive to apply the first year to become a member. There are a lot of young people who really are eager to work on climate change issues, and this is opening them up to the experience of working in communities directly on climate change. So that's been really rewarding to see. In some cases, communities are able to get people who are from that community. In other places, a foundation or an organization that really wants to help on a specific issue or in a specific area has been supportive of the program, and that's been a good model as well. And in some cases, the state is even hiring members and helping them work with local governments directly. So one of the other things that we do with this program that has been working pretty well, and we're going to keep working at it and making it even better, is making sure that this is a link between the state and our available tools and goals and resources and local governments. So the CivicSpark members, I am actively involved with the LGC in their training. We bring in state experts to train them on sort of the latest and greatest. They'll get exposed to things like urban footprint. They'll get previews of the general plan guidelines updates, CEQA updates, and direct access. So when a member has a question, they can very quickly get it up the chain, and if the regional supervisors or local government commission doesn't have a resource at their fingertips to help that member out, then it goes to me, and I'm able to reach out through my role at the Governor's Office of Planning and Research to most folks in state government are pretty happy to help out. And so it's been a great chance to get resources right out directly to the local governments. The other thing we're excited about, and this will be my last point, is that this is also a great feedback loop for us. So we're hearing from members and from the beneficiaries, which are the local governments themselves, what's working and what's not, and where the sticking points are. And my hope is that we can have sort of an adaptive management strategy ourselves, so we can continue to be more targeted and more efficient on our climate change efforts. Kif, is this a good format to pause for questions if anyone has questions regarding OPR or our role?
Sure, absolutely. If folks can type in their questions, and really questions can be asked anywhere along the line. We're happy to pause as we go, but if you specifically want to ask something about OPR's role and the vision of the Governor's Office for the program, please go ahead and either raise your hand using that icon on your dashboard for GoToWebinar, or type your question into the question section of the dashboard. And we'll just pause for a second while that happens. And I'll just say it's been a great partnership, and we're really excited about it because it does help to make those bridges. And we'll provide some examples of that a little bit later as we're talking, but it is one of those generative things. As you get more people on the ground and you get that dialogue between the state and local actors, you start to identify opportunities that you didn't even know were going to be there, and that's been a pretty exciting piece of it for us. So I don't see any questions this time. If somebody comes up with something, Holly, will you be on the line? I can always, oh, here we go.
Yes, of course.
What role will OPR take in the mandatory water rationing that was just announced yesterday?
That is not a question related to CivicSpark, but if whoever's asking that question would like to contact us directly, I can put them in touch with the person here who is working on groundwater and drought at the local level.
Great, thank you.
So you can see just by even attending a CivicSpark webinar, you get more access. Look, the system works.
Thank you, Holly. I'm going to put you on mute now so that if there's any background noise, but if anybody asks any questions, I'll bring you back in.
Great, and I'll be on for the remainder of the webinar. Thanks, everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you, Holly. So let's turn to the next slide here. There are other partners involved in the program that I want to highlight. This is a sort of really interesting collection of stakeholders. For those of you who aren't familiar with AmeriCorps, the federal agency involved with AmeriCorps is called the Corporation for National and Community Service. There are about 75,000 AmeriCorps members annually around the country, so our crew of 48 members is just a small part of a very large movement in the national service states. In California, AmeriCorps is managed through California Volunteers. They manage all the state service programs and volunteering activities, and they're a great partner, and they've been really helpful to us in shaping this program and getting the best that we can out of national service. We're also really honored to work with Encore.org. This is an organization that's grown up in the last few years and links up seasoned, retired professionals with nonprofits for what's called an Encore career. And they have a fellowship program, and we built Encore fellows into our program as our regional supervisors so that we could tap that exceptional work experience to give our AmeriCorps members a strong mentorship and a strong project management backbone in the work that they're doing. And of course, our members themselves are amazing. They are college educated. They generally have relevant experience coming from planning and policy backgrounds, and they provide really the bulk of our on-the-ground service to our beneficiaries, the local governments that we're serving. We also, as I mentioned earlier, have a network of regional partners, and you can see from this map and the text on the slide where our regions are, who the partners are, and the projects that are going on. The map is a distribution of all the project beneficiaries, the local governments we're working with. And you can see they're clustered around some areas that reflect the regions that we're working in. The North Coast, the Bay Area, Sacramento, Sierra Nevada, San Joaquin Valley, Central Coast, Inland Empire, Los Angeles, and San Diego. And in each of those regions, we have a partner who helps us identify local governments who want to work with CivicSpark, aggregate those interests, helps provide a conduit and a context for our members and our supervisors so that we can build the community of response around these regions, because fundamentally climate change is a local activity. Wanted to give you guys some project examples from this current year to show the breadth of work that we're doing and hopefully touch on our ability to serve a wide range of topics. I see a question is coming in. How qualified are the people that are members of AmeriCorps? My project is trees to be planned and planted in our city for carbon sequestration. Could there be a person that is qualified in arboriculture and urban forestry? Great question. Our demographic is principally recent college graduates coming out of high-performing college degree programs with an emphasis on environmental studies, planning, policy issues. We tend not to get incredibly specific skill sets because of the matching process and the recruitment process. It's hard to dial in a very particular candidate need. That being said, we're currently doing a project with the California Urban Forest Council in the Central Valley, where our members are helping to provide technical assistance in the startup phase for local governments around urban forestry issues. So picking apart your qualifications, arboriculture might be a bit of a stretch, but getting somebody who can learn on the job and dive into urban forestry projects is certainly something we feel capable of doing. A lot of the very specific skill set development that happens with our members does happen on the job, and we've built the program to accommodate for some ramp-up time in their project work so that we can kind of transition them from what might be a general education in sustainability or climate change and maybe some practical experience through a thesis or some internships they've done to the particulars of their project. But I've always been really impressed with their ability to take on work. I was just reviewing a climate action plan that one of our members drafted for the city of Fontana, and they really did the bulk of the writing using resources and content that had been provided as far as the actual inventory work, but it was very professionally written and certainly more surprising as far as the level of information in there for their prior experience with this work. So I hope that answers your question in part. So going to the project examples, you'll see we categorize them very roughly around some issues that are main themes in the climate protection space, such as climate resiliency. And you'll see we're doing work on vulnerability assessment and work on sort of sea level rise, greenhouse gas emissions reduction, doing work for the commercial sector, but also implementing streamlining, permit streamlining in the Central Coast, looking at urban greening, and you can see the urban forestry project listed there that I mentioned, but also urban heat islands work. We're also working on clean and alternative transportation projects, and also doing some projects that have more of a regional scale, and that being projects where we're working across multiple jurisdictions with a single implementation structure so that we get some economies of scale in the deployment. For example, drafting energy action plans for 7 cities in the Sierras. There's a template plan which gets customized for each city, but there's a process by which, using the members, we're able to do more than if each city had to go it alone. Turning at this point, we're getting a question, are there grant monies still available? Where can I get this information? I'll be getting to the fiscal component of the program in a minute, if you just bear with me for just a moment. So turning to the service delivery model, this is how we do the work. This is, again, a very high-level chart for how the program works. We start out by recruiting the members, and again, as I've mentioned, they are college graduates with degree backgrounds that make them a relevant fit to the work that we're assigning, though not highly specialized. I would say about 20% of our members do have graduate degrees, but it's really the bulk of them are recent college graduates up to 1 to 2 years out of school. We place those members in 9 regions around the state based on their interests and the work that's going on, and sort of a large matching process. At the same time, we engage the cities, counties, and regional agencies that we're going to be serving to identify the project work and the scope of that work, from small projects to very large projects. And then the members themselves build capacity by completing research, planning, or implementation projects. As an AmeriCorps program, we have a performance structure, but as a capacity building program, the content of the work is very open-ended. So we have sort of a 4-step process that we go through with every project, but what happens in those 4 steps varies depending on the capacity building needs identified by the local governments for their project. So we complete a gap assessment as the first step that the members engage in, and that involves a review of documents, conducting an interview with the staff member involved, and making sure that the project scope aligns with and supports the climate change capacity need. It's very similar to what most people would do during the startup of a project. They're just trying to get a handle on the local context and the needs in a semi-structured way. The service project itself is by far the vast majority of the work done by the members, and this is a scope of work defined by the participating local government or the sponsoring agency for the work that says exactly what the members are going to be doing and how they're going to do it over the course of a set period of time. While they're working with the local government, AmeriCorps members work to increase volunteerism in the community around climate change issues. This is a core component of all AmeriCorps programs. It dates back probably 15 years in AmeriCorps' timeline. The notion is that if we can increase volunteerism around key community issues, we can help to lighten the load for everybody and eventually transition off of this AmeriCorps support. And so members try and identify opportunities when they're doing the gap assessment for folding in and integrating volunteers into the work they're doing. And we have a lot of mechanisms by which we can do that, but we always try and make sure that it is supportive and aligned with the project, not an additive element. The last process step that we go through is what we call transitioning expertise. Many times when an organization contracts for some work from, say, a consultant or whatever, the end product is a deliverable, say a report, but there's not a lot of handoff, or there may not be a lot of transition that ideally memorializes that work product and helps to catapult it forward. So we try and identify some level of transition within the project that can help to hand off and cement the capacity building outcomes that we've engaged in. So this might be a training for staff, it might be some sort of sharing of results with stakeholders, whether they be community members or council members, so that there's a little bit more of a wrap-up to the project in a way that ideally makes sure that these outcomes will be ongoing. So turning to our activities to date to give you a sense of the scale of the work and the drive that's been going on around California since we launched in October. From the member application perspective, we received 5 applications for each open position. This is an acceptance rate comparable to that of much more established AmeriCorps programs, and I mention it by way of saying this is our first year. There's a pent-up demand for this work out there, and we feel that over time, with greater runway and as we start to build identity, that will only increase because there are so many young people who want to get into this work, who want to take a step towards addressing climate change. And we hear over and over again from our current members that this has been really helpful for them to get out of the school mode and into the workplace mode, and they're really grateful for that bridging opportunity. The members doing the work have already delivered over 18,000 hours of service to California communities, which is an immense sort of deployment if you think about it statewide. And that's happening both through the direct work that they're doing, through the service projects that they do, and their volunteer engagement. All of this is being deployed through 36 projects which are assisting over 88 local government agencies around the state. So we sort of bucket all their work within a project framework with defined local governments that we're serving. Couple testimonials. We like to toot our own horn. Who doesn't? It's always helpful when somebody else does it for us. So our local governments and the folks that we're working with are really starting to appreciate the value of the work that we're doing. And so you can see that it ranges from comments on the deliverables that we've provided to how the members bring energy into the work and into the activity in the community they're working in. I can't emphasize enough how this goes way beyond just the work itself. Bringing young, motivated, emerging professionals into a local government context where they invigorate work, they daylight the importance of it, they bring a passion and excitement, has a catalytic effect for a lot of folks, whether in the community or in the local government staff. And it's really visible in the work that we're doing. It's helping folks do their job better, and that's fundamentally what a capacity building program is for. We're trying to be the extra arms, feet, eyes that help local government staff do what they already want to do and just can't get to. You'll see that comment, without CivicSpark, climate planning would not be happening here. We're seeing folks saying basically we're the agent that is helping move climate action forward in some of the communities that we're working with. And there's a real sense of ownership among some of our partners for what these members are going to be doing in their long term. We're helping to create the next generation of, we hope, climate professionals. And by virtue of that, we're not only delivering on these specific project outcomes, but we're helping to realize the larger goal of engaging a population into this work for their full careers. So turning now to the process of applying and starting up a program. Oh, I see another question. Is CivicSpark's service and capacity building efforts limited to government entities? Can CivicSpark offices assist, serve, or contract with nonprofit organizations like Sierra Club, NRDC, etc.? Another great question. The answer is sort of. Our service beneficiaries are always local governments. That is our sole mission. However, many local governments work in partnership with NGOs and other agencies and organizations to get work done in the community. And much work that is done by those organizations may be tangential to local governments, but often has a community impact that the local government supports either directly or indirectly by virtue of what they've set out for climate protection goals. So from a functional perspective, we can contract with an NGO. We can, in order to deliver a project, we always have to have a local government contact involved in the project in order to be viable. And that means going through those 4 steps I identified. They have to help participate in the gap assessment. We have to develop that transitional and volunteer engagement strategy, has to touch the local government. But the bulk of the work can actually happen out in the community. A couple more questions coming in. Can we print the PowerPoint or get a copy to show to others? Absolutely. We'll be posting the PowerPoint and a recording of this session on our website following this. Who pays for the member services? Does the local agency pay for their services? If so, what is the fee? That's coming up very soon, so I'll touch on that in just a moment. So going back to the application and project startup process, there's an initial project application. So this provides some basic details on the project itself and includes information about the local government agencies that are receiving services. Again, distinguishing between who we might be working with on a contractual and project basis from the local government who's benefiting from this capacity building effort. There's a service agreement which describes the project scope and sets the project hours and total costs, and it's very much a template consulting services agreement that many of you may be familiar with. We have our own template to work with, but we're often very accommodating about using a template that might be provided. Most often local governments require their own templates. We just fold in our exhibits which describe the project scope and boundaries. There is a pre-service capacity survey. This is a survey of the local government staff who's a point of contact for the project to get an understanding of the issues and how climate action is viewed in the community and set the goals for the project. Those goals are a project goal, a staff goal, and a sort of diffusion of knowledge or transitional goal. These are how we measure our outcomes. From a capacity building perspective, we have the local government staff set the goal, and then at the end of the program we come back with that survey again and say, did we meet those goals? And that's really how we're tracking on a performance basis that we are delivering capacity building outcomes. So that's a really key piece. And then the project really kicks off with the gap assessment, which is the first member-driven activity. And from a local government perspective, it really involves just sitting down with the member to talk about the scope and possibly refine the goals that were defined in the survey, because we see often when you ask a local government staff about goals, they think about the larger goals, not the goals that the member may be able to do during their term of service. So now another piece of the program is eligibility. All AmeriCorps programs have criteria by which they screen their beneficiaries. And for us, when thinking about climate action and climate action capacity building, we set some parameters. So for us, in order for local government to be served by CivicSpark, they must just demonstrate a capacity need, which is measured by the absence of one or more of these 4 items. Excuse me, first 3 items, but there's also a requirement for project size. It's the 4th item. So we ask, does the local government have a full-time dedicated sustainability staff person, not somebody who's doing it and has several other responsibilities, but really it's their sole job? Do they have a formally adopted climate action plan or similar mechanism? And by formal, we mean it's gone through board approval, in order to be a boundary document that has been accepted at the board level. And then thirdly, do they have specific mechanisms in place to annually track climate action progress and report at the department and/or board level on that progress? Many communities in California have none of these. A larger percent every day has a climate action plan or a sustainability staff person. We have yet to meet a local government who has a fully developed tracking process, because it's just really, that's been that's the next generation of effort around this climate action work, and frankly, it is a big piece of work that we have yet to see local governments fully engage in. The other piece of eligibility is that the project or service delivered to the local government has to be a minimum of 200 hours. In order to realize capacity building gains, we had to set an amount of service that we felt like could result in meaningful outcomes, both from the members' engagement and the local government's perspective from what they're getting out of it. And we felt that just having really short projects wouldn't allow our members to engage as fully, and so the project service needs to reach 200 hours in order to be a viable project. So now we'll get to the fiscal contribution side, which has been asked about a couple of times. The first thing to say is that CivicSpark is funded by both the Corporation for National and Community Services and by partner fiscal contributions. So there's a balancing act here. We receive a significant amount of value from the federal government, both in terms of a direct grant to the local government that pays for a portion of the program, and in ancillary benefits that go to the members but don't touch us. For example, there's an education award that they get upon completion that's about $6,000. They get access to food stamps in a way that others might not. They get access to other in-kind benefits. We get services from, for example, OPR as in-kind. The total value of that contribution is about half of what we then ask for in order to cover our total program cost. And the way that we've defined the local fiscal contribution is based on the total project hours requested. So the members serve a total of 1,700 hours, but obviously not all of those hours are going to be involved in delivering the projects that they work on. So to make it easier for the folks that we're entering into these agreements with, we ask them to estimate what their project need is in hours, and that's all they're paying for. And it's $18 for each project hour. And what that includes is everything related to sort of human resources. So unlike bringing on an intern, there's no overhead that would be attached to that. It's a flat cost. It covers both the member and their supervisor's time. This is sort of a unique feature of our AmeriCorps program. Our supervisors can play a direct role in project engagement. They help the members brainstorm, they help work on their scoping and tracking of their projects. So you're getting the seasoned professional weighing in a supervisory way to the members' work, acting as a liaison to the local governments and the project partners, and troubleshooting anything that comes up at the same cost as you're getting for the project as a whole. So there's not a tiered rate system for the supervisor. And that's really beneficial because they can help keep things on track in a way that the members can't necessarily, and you're not, as the project partner, always having to provide that direct management. Because that's what we heard from a lot of local governments is sometimes taking on an intern sounds great, but they have to recruit them, hire them, place them, supervise them, and deal with any issues that come up. So we have a liaison that can help with all of those things. We do all of the recruitment, all of the hiring, and that really helps really shorten that time of investment up front on the part of our partners. As I mentioned, it's only based on the project work, not any administrative or training time. And we have a bit of a buffer if the members need to spend a little bit of time getting up to speed. We call that prep time, and some of that we don't pass on if it's early on in the project and it's really a detour from what they might need to do because they need to get up to speed. And we don't want to pass that on, and so we have a chance to do that. It also includes some travel-related expenses for the team. So if they need to go If they're working out of our office and they need to go visit occasionally to the local site, we can cover a certain amount of that, about $1 per project hour for travel-related expenses. And then to make this clear, it's not that it has to come from the local government. Really, it can come from anybody who's supporting the program. So it could be an NGO, it could be a different local government agency. In some cases, we have state agencies who are doing this. If it's federal money that's going to be used, there's a process by which we need to get approval from the federal agency to match funds with another federal agency. AmeriCorps allows that, but they need the other agency to deploy that. So if you have a federal grant, that can be a source. We can work with private money, but it generally needs to be in the form of a sponsorship. We cannot be benefiting private sector companies. That's just a prohibition for AmeriCorps programs because it's a federal service program. And so if there is a private company that wants to be involved, we would work with them as a sponsor in order to keep an arm's length relationship from the fiscal oversight. But a lot of ways in which different funds can be deployed for this without it directly coming from the local governments. But I would say that a large number of our local government partners are finding the money because it's a great value, and now that they've seen what they can do, they're starting to invest in thinking about it for next year because they're really finding that it is a very cost-effective way to get done what they want to do. So some of the key dates for the coming year that I want to touch on. Right now, our call for project proposals is open. That's why we're doing these webinars. I believe there's another one scheduled for May. We'll be sharing these webinars online and sending out the slides from it. So if you have project ideas, if you want to talk about specific proposals, if you want to just go ahead and apply, now is the time to reach out to us. Our website, CivicSpark.lgc.org, has a partner section where you can get an application. You can also download all the application questions to prepare it offline. I'm available to answer questions about project concepts and structures and talk in greater depth. And we welcome anybody who wants to start thinking about this. It's a great time to be doing it. We'll be taking project applications up until the point at which we fill up our portfolio. And that could be anywhere between now and really September. We may go into the service year. We'd love to have all of our projects full before we start the service year because it'll help us with our recruitment and placement. To the point that somebody made about skills, if we do know earlier about a specific project, we can advertise that that project is going to be available, and somebody could identify it and say they, have the appropriate skills, maybe be better matched to that project. Member recruitment will start in probably June to July, and we'll be doing a national broadcast for it much more aggressively than last year because we have more time and more recognition already, and we anticipate a very strong recruitment pool. By late September, we hope to have most service agreements finalized for these projects so that we really know what we're getting into by the time we do our member orientation. And projects will be starting in early November, and they run through mid-September of the following year. So that's kind of our calendar for the near term and on into next year. So at this point, I'd love to open it up to questions. I've got about 20 minutes left, and happy to take questions really on any of this. I see one question already. How can a project be as generic as assist the city to implement the cap measures? That's a multi-layered question. At the top, yes, that's a project. As a capacity building program, we want to be there to help where the need is. And if the city has a fairly vague need to work on climate action plan measures, really we want to help in whatever way. And a broader scope is actually easier for us if the member is seen as in some ways the let's help in any way we can. Well, that's okay. From a contractual perspective, that's also fine with us because if there's a looser scope, it makes it easier to have met that scope. Where you want to get a little bit more specific is around the goals that we define for staff and project and transition. And so it might get a little bit more detailed there around staff. It might be, help to further clarify a strategy for advancing the CAP measures in the future. For the project goal, it might be something related to implementing specific measures, and for the transition, it might be provide staff training on future CAP implementation activities and opportunities. Those are just some examples. Another question is coming in about, do you have examples of projects that resulted in tracking, monitoring emissions and reductions measures? Yeah, actually, we have a project going on right now in the South Bay, South San Francisco Bay, where we have 4 cities that banded together: Mountain View, Redwood City, Cupertino, and Sunnyvale, and they have some individual scope elements and some shared scope elements. And part of that was to help identify a process and a training for the local governments in those 4 cities to go through that would help them set up their own tracking and monitoring processes for their climate change action plan. The members are also helping to align their existing inventories and climate action plans with the Seek ClearPath cloud-based climate action tool that's now free to local governments. Because one thing we heard from, well, we've heard this from a lot of people, but those 4 cities in particular, was the burden of regular updates to the CAP is, wearing them down. And so by migrating into ClearPath, they're hoping it will become easier over time to maintain their climate action plan. I'm hoping I answered your question, but let me know if there's some more detail you would like about that, or if I missed it in some way. Other questions I can answer. Happy to take them. Oh, I see somebody has raised a hand, but maybe it's Ken Menzer. Do you want me to answer something a little differently? You did ask something a little bit earlier, so I don't know if the raised hand is new or if I met your question. Here's another question coming in. Are case studies going to be developed to showcase the deliverables? Yes. We're not sure exactly what form they will take yet. That's still evolving, but we're talking with Holly from OPR, and I'm going to unmute her to talk about this particular piece. Obviously, the state is interested in seeing successful outcomes and helping to use those to broadcast them more broadly. So we're talking about a process by which successful project deliverables get warehoused by OPR so that other folks have access to them. We will also be doing that internally because we have no interest in reinventing the wheel. And so if a member is doing something, whether a training or a product deliverable in one region that somebody else might be doing the next year, or even doing in a similar way the same year, we're encouraging members to cross-pollinate with each other. And where we know of a project starting up that's been similarly done elsewhere, we'll be telling members, hey, go to this body of work year over year. Anything you want to add to that, Holly, as far as the sharing of outcomes?
No, that's a pretty good summary. Once we, as you may know, we're pretty interested in templates. And so if something a member develops in one region can be relevant to other areas of the state, we may be able to make those into templates that become public. But this is our startup year, so we're still kind of experimenting with it, but that's my hope.
Thanks, Holly. Somebody's asking, can you provide a list of peninsula cities that are using CivicSpark so we can chat with them? I assume you mean by peninsula the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area Peninsula. The ones that I mentioned, Redwood City, Mountain View, Sunnyvale, and Cupertino, I don't know if those count as peninsula in your mind. I consider them South Bay, are the ones working with us. We have also members in the Bay Area working in Marin County, working in Benicia, and working for BCDC, but working with Contra Costa County and City of San Rafael. And if you shoot me a note offline, I'm happy to make an introduction. So the next question I see, and I really appreciate you guys asking questions. It's very helpful. Is this program intended to pay for staff support only or to fund the implementation, or both? I'd say either it's what is the project need that is helping advance climate action. And so what we don't want to see are members who are gophers for staff. That's not really the vision for an AmeriCorps program, and it's not really the vision that is going to engage people of the caliber we have. So we want you to think about the project that enhances your ability to deliver, gets you to a better place, to continue to do climate action work. And so we really look at it from the project perspective, and ideally it's an engaging project for an emerging professional. You give them access to something maybe you wouldn't to just a general first starting staff because they're in this program, and it provides them an opportunity, and you will be amazed at how much they can do. So think ambitiously, I would say, with your ideas. We have a new area that we have annexed, 3,500 plus acres into our city, and would like to plan and plant trees to offset new development in about 300 acres with drought-tolerant trees. We also need to do a tree inventory to see what other opportunities are plant in your cities. Are these possible projects? Absolutely. You know, this is the same person who asked about the arboriculture. You know, when it gets to some technical issues around tree planting or other things, I think we could talk about that in more detail, but the project concept, essentially, which is related to sequestration and water conservation, are clearly related to climate protection. It also has a urban heat island effect, so it's a great project, I think, from all that perspective. It's the fit for the role and the skills we have that we could talk about. Just in short, how has this program been integrated with the California Green Business Network? We are starting one and probably two programs in Orange County. We can talk more offline. Love to talk with you. Growing, for example, growing a green business network is a good example where that is a benefit and in line with many communities' climate action plans and the overall goals for climate protection at the local government level. But the work in a project like that might be principally working with the business sector and the chamber in a given region, and that's just fine. We're doing some commercial work, commercial sector support work, and we can do that when it's in line with community climate action goals. Can you provide a comprehensive list of agencies and projects offline? Absolutely. Ventura County is embarking on a general plan update, a portion of which will address climate change, adaptation, and sustainability. Currently, there is no adopted climate action plan that applies to Ventura County. We have already retained a consultant to kick off this effort and develop a scoping document. Could CivicSpark provide a member to assist in this effort, i.e., prepare a portion of the scoping document that sets forth the options for addressing climate change, or possibly assist in the actual drafting of the general plan update? Yes, that is great work. General plan updates tend to be large, very large and complex documents that involve a lot of folks, so the role for the member would depend on the timing and the scale and a lot of other factors, but it would be a great opportunity for somebody coming out of a planning degree program. And as I mentioned, we've got a member working on a climate action plan, and they really did the lion's share of the writing of it, basically going out and looking at what's out there in the climate action plan domain. So I think a member could do a great job helping with a general plan process, especially when it comes to things like looking across the state to identify elements related to adaptation, climate change, and sustainability that are being integrated. In Marin County, as an example, our member there is doing something similar, not exactly, but the county wanted to identify where are local governments starting to embed adaptation into some of their staff operational practices. And the member is doing what many staff in cities would love to have time to do, which is looking deeply into other jurisdictional resources and doing the follow-up. And that could be a project for Ventura County. I will mention that we do have a member currently placed with the Ventura, City of Ventura Housing Authority, if you ever wanted to chat with folks over there about what that experience has been like, to just get a local perspective. I missed the beginning of the webinar. I'm not sure if this was presented. Are there any required matching funds? If so, what's the minimum requirement? I think we went over that on the local government fiscal contribution side. Excuse me. Let me get that. Somehow I just dropped out of my presentation, which I hate it when that happens. And I'm just going to go to that slide so it's up there for that person who's asking. There you go. And so that outlines the fiscal contribution side of it, and hopefully makes that clear. I'm happy to talk further offline, but you should be thinking about this in terms of $18 an hour, $18 per project hour with a minimum of 200 project hours required. So $3,600 is sort of the entry point for a project, and we go up from there. We have projects that are 1,000 to 2,000 hours. Other questions I can answer that we have not touched on. Happy to. We've got about 5 minutes left. Really great questions. You've definitely touched on a lot of really good issues, and we will be doing another webinar. We will be posting this online in a recorded form and getting the slides out there. I'm happy to, I hope my email, which was up there for a moment, is kscheuer, S-C-H-E-U-E-R, @lgc.org. Feel free to send me a note, and I'm happy to get you additional information if folks want to make local contacts to find out from the local government staff that we've been working with or our regional partners what that experience has been like. Definitely encourage you to reach out to us to brainstorm project ideas and the kind of roles that are good for members to play. Any and all of those things are in our sort of high on our radar to respond to. So not seeing any more questions at the moment. Please feel free if it's specific or you feel like I didn't quite touch on something, I'm happy to explain in the next 5 minutes anything that you feel like would be of use. Holly, anything you'd like to say in closing?
Just thank you, everybody, for your interest in the program. We're excited about it, and we think it's going to do great things, and we hope you get involved.
Thanks, Holly. And likewise, we're really excited by this opportunity in the program. We're just starting to see, as we've gotten about the halfway mark in our program year, it's all gelling together. And I just did a couple of site visits in the San Luis Obispo and LA regions, and hearing from the members and the project partners about those synergies, it really makes me feel like we are doing what we're intending to do, and we're delivering successfully in the ways that we hope to. So I hope you'll consider working with us if you have a project need, and reaching out and brainstorming with us about how we can help you. So if there's no more questions coming in, I want to thank you again, and I guess we'll end a little bit early. So take care, and I hope everybody has a great day.